Grand Central, Stockport. A journey through time. Stockport, a vibrant town in Greater Manchester, has always been known for its rich history, industrial legacy, and, of course, its bustling transport connections. However, one of the most iconic landmarks of the town, Grand Central, stands as a testament to an era gone by, a symbol of the late 20th century, and a place that defined the social fabric of Stockport in its prime. In this documentary, we will explore the rise and fall of Grand Central, specifically focusing on the 1990s, and the eventual demolition of the iconic disco that once lived within its walls. The birth of Grand Central. Grand Central was once a thriving shopping and entertainment center located in the heart of Stockport. Its origins date back to the 1930s, with its opening marking a shift in the way shopping centers and social hubs would operate in the future. Designed to offer not only retail therapy but also a place to gather and socialize, Grand Central quickly became a hub for locals. The architecture was grand, hence the name, and it featured an expansive interior with sweeping walkways and grand staircases. By the 1990s, Stockport had changed, and so had Grand Central. The shopping center had long been a staple for local residents, offering a mix of high street shops, independent stores, and a variety of entertainment venues. However, during the early 1990s, the building's reputation would take a significant turn due to a number of factors, most notably the rise of larger shopping malls and retail developments in the surrounding areas. Grand Central in the 1990s. In the early part of the decade, Grand Central remained a key location for shopping and socializing. Stockport had a rich working-class history, and Grand Central was a microcosm of the local community. The shopping center wasn't just a place to buy goods. It was where people came to meet friends, enjoy some downtime, or catch a movie. The center had a cinema, and its various cafes and eateries offered a perfect space to relax after a busy day of shopping. However, as the decade progressed, the economic landscape of Stockport began to change. With the rise of larger retail outlets such as the Peel Centre and the nearby Trafford Centre, the competition for shoppers grew fierce. Smaller shopping venues like Grand Central struggled to keep up with the ever-changing demands of a retail-savvy public. Despite this, the building retained an air of nostalgia for the people who had grown up with it. The 90s also saw the rise of new leisure activities, with discos and nightclubs becoming incredibly popular. Grand Central, ever the innovative space, capitalized on this trend by housing one of Stockport's most iconic venues, the Grand Central Disco. The Grand Central Disco, a nightlife icon. Perhaps the most enduring memory for many of Stockport's residents was the disco housed within Grand Central. The Grand Central Disco was the beating heart of nightlife in Stockport throughout the 1980s and 1990s. It became legendary not only for its music but also for the energy and excitement that permeated the space. The disco, often simply referred to as the Grand, was a hotspot for the youth of the town. It offered a space where teenagers and young adults could escape from the stresses of daily life and lose themselves in the rhythms of house, techno, and the most popular chart hits of the era. The 90s were a time of cultural transition, and the Grand was an essential part of this shift, offering an electrifying atmosphere of neon lights, pounding bass, and the latest fashion trends. The clubbing scene at Grand Central was very much a reflection of the time. Popular DJ nights would attract hundreds of party-goers, all eager to dance until dawn. The building's layout added to the atmosphere, with its labyrinthine corridors and large dance floors, creating a sense of mystery and allure that made the venue even more exciting for those lucky enough to get in. But it wasn't just about dancing. The Grand Central Disco was a space for self-expression and cultural exchange. Stockport, like many towns in the 90s, was experiencing a period of significant change. It was a melting pot of different musical subcultures. From rave culture to pop and indie music fans, the Grand embraced all of these trends, with diverse music offerings that allowed its patrons to experience a wide variety of sounds. It was a place where people of all backgrounds could come together, united by their love of music and nightlife. Decline of Grand Central in the late 90s. However, as with all things, the vibrancy of Grand Central was eventually to fade. By the mid to late 1990s, the once thriving shopping center began to show signs of wear and tear. The competitive retail landscape made it difficult for Grand Central to keep up, and although it remained a popular spot for nighttime entertainment, the retail side of the center started to see a decline. The disco, which had once been packed every weekend with the sounds of eager party-goers, was beginning to lose its popularity. Many patrons who had once frequented the disco had moved on, either growing older or finding new venues that offered a different experience. The influx of larger and more modern clubs in nearby Manchester and beyond further eroded Grand Central's position as the go-to nightlife destination. The decline of the disco was part of a larger trend of changing tastes in the late 90s. Electronic music and rave culture, which had defined the earlier part of the decade, began to give way to new forms of music and clubbing experiences. The once beloved Grand Central Disco, with its familiar sound system and flashing lights, became a relic of the past. It was no longer the epicenter of Stockport's nightlife, and the building's owners began to see that a change was necessary. The demolition of the Grand Central Disco. As the 90s came to a close, the fate of Grand Central seemed inevitable. The building, which had once been the pride of Stockport, had fallen into disrepair. The once grand shopping center, filled with gleaming windows and bustling shops, was now showing the toll of age and neglect. The disco, once full of life and energy, had long since closed its doors. In 2000, the decision was made to demolish the Grand Central building, along with its iconic disco. The demolition was part of a broader plan to redevelop the area and bring in new retail spaces and housing. It was a bittersweet moment for the people of Stockport, many of whom had grown up with Grand Central as an integral part of their town. The building's demolition marked the end of an era and the closing of a chapter in Stockport's history. For many people who had frequented the Grand Central Disco, the news of its demolition brought back memories of their youth. The nostalgia was palpable as people recalled their nights of dancing, laughter, and friendship. But it also highlighted the inevitable march of progress. The world was changing, and with it, so too were the places that defined an entire generation. Legacy and memory. Today, the site where Grand Central once stood is unrecognizable. The new developments that took place in the early 2000s have transformed the landscape of Stockport, but for those who remember Grand Central, the memories remain vivid. The once glamorous shopping center and its legendary disco may have been demolished, but they live on in the hearts and minds of the people who once filled its halls. Grand Central's legacy is not just about the building itself, but about the community it fostered. It was a place where people from all walks of life came together to shop, socialize, and celebrate. It was a symbol of a different time, when small town life had a more intimate, personal feel, and social spaces like Grand Central were more than just businesses, they were the beating heart of a community. As Stockport continues to evolve, the spirit of Grand Central lives on in the stories and memories of those who spent their formative years within its walls. Whether it was dancing in the disco or shopping with friends, Grand Central was, for many, a cornerstone of their youth. And, while it may no longer be physically present, it remains an enduring symbol of a bygone era.